show you where we left off today and share my screen as well, which was share your entire screen. So we'll just do a little bit more today. Maybe we'll get this rectangle moving. Alright, so this is where I was at yesterday, where I had a ball bouncing around inside of there, and I also drew a rectangle. The ball draws underneath the rectangle because it was drawn first in the list there. And today I want to try to move that rectangle around. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to hit F10 for help. And I'm going to look under the word keyboard there, and it shows you how Turing has named all the keyboard keys. Kind of the same way Scratch does, right? You can go through a list and pick the keyboard to see which key is being pressed. And then under at the bottom, there's an input.keydown, and that's the command we want to borrow. I'm just going to take all this code right here. It's just a little example they have, and I'm going to paste it in my code. But I'm going to paste it outside of my loop, right there. Okay. And I'm actually going to keep this variable thing outside of my loop. There's no sense ever declaring a variable inside of a loop, because then it'll do it however often your loop runs. You don't want to be telling the computer to make a variable 50 times a second. I'm going to put this other code inside of the loop somewhere. Anywhere is fine, maybe right after my clear screen here. Oops. I lost my cursor. Maybe because I have to save it. Poosh. There it goes. Alright, this one apparently it's going to write the word the T key is pressed if I press the letter T. So let's see what it does. I'm pressing the letter T and I'm holding it, and it does say that the T key is pressed. Okay, so I can actually use this instead of writing, let's say I'm going to write the letter D, okay, and instead of writing down the T key is pressed, maybe I could change a variable. I want to actually change this number from 400 to like 405 or whatever. So I need this to be a variable. So I'm going to make that variable right now. And maybe I'll call it, I don't know, box X, like that. Okay. Variable box X. And it equals 400, so I'll write box X in here like that. Make sure it runs still. Okay, great, hasn't changed anything. But in here, I'll write box X colon equals box X plus whatever, 5. And then when I run that, when I press the letter D, oh boy, look at that. It kind of looks cool, but what is happening here? It's kind of making a platform. What I was supposed to do was actually write in the other X, box X plus 100, so that they both move together. Kind of like in the animation project, we learned that can happen. If you don't, especially for rectangles, if you don't adjust both X terms, you'll get some weird things going on. So that actually moves my rectangle. That looks pretty cool. And I might just write down, I might just copy and paste this for the letter A, like that, and put -5 so I can move it back and forth. Bam, bam. Okay, and you could actually make a variable for box Y too if you wanted to move up and down. So if you'd like to do that, you can. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to paste this crazy code to the Google Classroom right here, so you can check it out as well. Copy, we'll paste it there. Okay. And I'm also going to paste it at the top of my program, maybe after my set screen. So I'm going to hit Control V here. And this is what's known as creating your own command. Mine is called collision. Just like the draw box is a command and it takes in like 5 numbers, or draw oval or square root, SQRT is a command. We've used commands in here, but they're always in Turing's inner files. Sometimes it's useful in coding, a lot of times in coding, to make your own command that can do the same thing over and over again, but you don't actually have to write the code over and over again. You only have to write it once, and then now, so this code checks for collision between a box and a circle, right? And it's a lot of code. I got most of it from the internet and just kind of rewrote it and stuff. It's this long. Every time I want to check if a box and a circle hit, do I want to write this code in a loop or something like that? Or maybe a few times in my code? No, I don't. I would rather just use the word collision and then pass it the things it needs. Let's see what it needs. It says it's a collision command between a rectangle and a circle, and it takes as its parameters x1, y1, x2, y2. So those are just the positions of the box that it's going to check that it hits. Then it needs the x and y position of the circle and the circle's radius. And then it will output a number 1 if it hits the left edge of the box, 2 if it hits the top, 3 if it hits the corner, and it'll output 0 if it doesn't hit. So maybe I just pasted that above all my code. I think that should be fine. Normally what you would do would be you would save it to a new file, and then you would never have to see all this stuff. But I'm just going to paste it on the top of my code for now. And I'm just going to use it here. I'm going to go put, and I'm going to use my command called collision. And it takes in 7 numbers. It takes in my box location and my circle location. So I'm going to write in the box location. For me, it's these 4 numbers. Okay. Just took them from my draw fill box. And for the draw fill oval, it's these 3 numbers. So it takes 7 numbers, and it's going to put those on the screen, hopefully. Let's see. See how it says 0 there? And now it's like actually saying numbers. Boom, 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 boom. So it actually is knowing when it's hitting that box. Okay? And so what I can do is, instead of putting it on the screen, I can actually check if it's doing something and then maybe bounce the ball. So if I say if, and then I put in brackets this, if it equals 1, then I'll do something. So it says it returns 1 if it hits the left or right, 2 if it hits the top corner, and 3 if it hits the, or 2 if it hits the top, 3 if it hits the corner. So instead of just writing it on the screen, why don't I just, if it hits the right or left edge, make X step bounce. Like that. See that? And now it bounces. It still might be glitchy. I still might be able to push the thing right into the ball like that. Because, yeah, and it still goes through the bottom and top. Kind of like Scratch. Collision's really hard to do because everything is running discretely. So there's times when you can actually, before it even has a chance to check if there's a collision, the ball could have already stepped inside of the rectangle. And then it will think it's hitting because it's inside of it, and then just bounce back and forth, because it's hitting it all the time. Okay, now I'm going to just do my check collision, else if, and I'll say if it equals 2, then what I'll do is go y step colon equals minus y step, like that. Okay, so that should cover me for hitting the top and the bottom. You can see I can make like a pretty basic game like this, right? Because you have some collision. You could check if something, you know, how many times you hit the box or something with an if statement, or you could, I don't know, come up with something kind of fun. If it hits the corner, I think it kind of messes up there, and that's why I put that corner collision in. That's the number 3. So if I go and copy this, paste it, but I say number 3. I actually want to bounce both directions. If I hit a corner, it'll look a little bit weird, but it'll stop a lot of the glitching. And if you want real collision, you have to learn physics and forces and to set up all kinds of steps. Whoa, I trapped it. Even that could be a game, you know, where you trap it or something like that. But there you go. If I hit a corner here, bam, it bounces off. Okay? So that's a little kind of fun way of doing collision in Turing. You can check that out. Try it today if you have the opportunity to use Turing.